Inverurie. And I got myself a cup of tea. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs open, or not tabs, rather windows open that we're going to bounce between. Can you hear me, everyone? Hello, welcome, one and all. Nice to see everyone here. Hello. Yeah, 2 minutes late. It's because I was having tech issues. YouTube is being tremendously well, I don't know what the word is. Broken. It's being very broken. Let's bring my big face here. Hello. Hello, everyone. Oh, how are we all? We all well? I have tea. I hope everyone is here with tea or other hot beverages, or indeed cool beverages if you're not such a hot beverage fan. Lovely. Got my nice hot ScotRail tea. Do I have any other ScotRail paraphernalia behind me? No, I don't really, do I? Should get more ScotRail paraphernalia. Alex Hines, if you're watching, can you send me some ScotRail paraphernalia? I need to. Yeah. So, I'm not paying attention to or thinking about the bingo. Let's keep the bingo chat not too much in the. Let's keep the admin and bingo chat down to a minimum in the live chat. Keep it on the Discord, if only because it means I can keep an eye on the questions and we can generally focus on the. On our little journey. So yeah, new trial format for Rail Natter. How long have I been nattering now? 2 minutes. Well, what can I say? Well, quite a lot as it happens. We're going to go on a journey. Let's get my little. Let's go back here. So we're going to have a little journey to Whiskey Country, or at least one of the Whiskey Countries. LJ Corky's off to do some ballast bashing. That's fun. So. Yeah, YouTube is bad, Lewis. It's very bad. This is my favourite whiskey that I've never tried. I've still to find a bottle and drink it, but it has a train on it and it's purple. These are both things I like, and it also has a silly leather bit on the bottle. I'm all over this whiskey, even though I've never tried it. I'm sure it's lovely, but I need to try it. In any case, I put it up because it's got a picture of a train on it. Longmorn single malt from lovely Speyside. The best whiskies are Speyside whiskey. Now, that's not necessarily true. They're all different. But I do like Speyside whiskies very much. And whiskies, quite a lot of whiskies, come from the part of Britain that we're going to be exploring in this evening's little trip. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. There we go, the Inch City 225 fading out. I used to see those sorts of things appearing. There we are. There's so at the start of our journey is actually, well, we're in Inverurie. This is a picture of the front of the house where I grew up, or rather the flat that I grew up in. I grew up in a little sort of the top of this flat. We had long stairs that went up to the top, and then we lived in that flat. As you can see, there's Dad's Rover 213. 213? No. Yeah, it was a 213. And you can see actually the door. This is ideal here. This here is the door that he painted with paint. I can't remember which way around it is. Whether he did it with the garage door paint first, or did the door of the. I think he painted the garage door in this color, and then painted the car. Or in any case, he had both the garage door and the car were painted, brush painted with the same stuff. So that was really good. Nice. There's the Rover Viking badge there. Very nice. And Mum's lovely big poppies. There's a fond memory of those, and of course of the wheelie bin. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, I'm telling you it as filler material, but no more that about where I grew up and why I've started with Inverurie to Elgin. Roaming Adcrat asks, can't believe the car survived long enough for the photo to be taken before it collapsed into rust. This vehicle actually caught fire on us around a roundabout in Glasgow. I think there was a pretty substantial fire in the footwell, which was good. In any case, we are heading up to Inverurie. So here we are. We're going to load. This is Britain, and we're going to zoom right in on a familiar shape to me, which is this funny little shape, which is shows how much transport influences urban development. So you have on one side you've got the railway, and on the other you've got the new bypass that was built. which very much acts as a barrier to the development and growth of the town. This is Inverurie. Here it is. To show you some of the other tabs we have, we have Google Maps here. There are, so there's the station. So Google Maps is what we're going to be using for the old street view. So let's whiz in and have a look at the station, shall we? There we go. There's a nice view of the station there. It's quite a nice building. I can't tell you anything about the architecture other than it's quite pleasingly familiar vernacular to any of you who are familiar with the sort of northeastern sort of granite architecture. It's pretty familiar. Some nice sort of touches there. Lovely, very pleasant. So it's a stout-looking station. What else have we got? We've got some old maps. So I've got the old NLS Geo Explorer here, so we can look at. So for example, there's the works. There's the station. But actually, if I let's whiz back to the olden days, you can see the station has moved. So the old station position actually was quite a bit further south. They moved it up onto a curve. Those fools. All right, tell you what, let's bring up my face here. Hello everyone, I'm back. Yeah, there's no news because the whole point of this is we're going to undertake a little trip. We're going to have a little trip. So here's the northeast of Scotland. And this is a map I created a while back, just kind of making the point that the northeast of Scotland was eviscerated by the railway closures of the middle of the 20th century. And so all that's left is the red stuff, with some nice straight lines. And then there's a lot of railway that closed. And actually from this, I kind of yes, this is green and red for colourblind people, apologies. I need to do more colourblind testing on my outputs. In any case, down here is also the Old Meldrum branch that went over to Old Meldrum. So, and there are quite a few other bits of branch line here and there that are missing off here as well. Lots of railway missing. Huge amount. In fact, the area was just basically decimated. And but anyway, that's an interesting aside, really, because we're concentrating on the pleasant journey that we can take. Is the old location of the station still available? It's just in a bit of a silly place, to be honest. In any case, that's that. We're starting in Inverurie. We're starting our journey in Inverurie. And what we're going to do is follow the railway. It's about a journey about an hour in length. We're going to follow the railway up northwards from Inverurie. Kind of broadly sticking with the time it takes to get from A to B, although I don't think that's going to work because we're already 8 minutes in. So all I can do is basically say we're going to kick off. But firstly, let's have a look at Inverurie station. There's a nice aerial shot of the station. So we were stood here a minute ago, having a look round. It was always a familiar. So I used to I'd hang around next to the lovely station footbridge. I'd always look across at the garden centre, which has substantially expanded since I was there. Yeah, it was since I was a kid. It was little more than a shed, and it's rather bigger now. They've also added this pedestrian footbridge, which is quite nice, and generally widened it a bit. This always used to be a bit of a. In fact, they always had traffic lights. Did they replace? I can't remember them replacing. In any case, it's changed quite a bit since I was here as a kid. I've fond memories of standing on this bridge, looking this way, and seeing a Class 170 with one bogie here and another bogie here, and the vehicle like that, and one vehicle here and another vehicle here like this. It had split the points for whatever reason. It had wiped out a loc. Actually, it was kind of further this way because it didn't wipe out the semaphore signal, but it had wiped out a couple of locs. Locs are the little grey boxes you see next to the railway. Anyway, yeah. So there it is. You can see it's on a slightly annoyingly on a transition, kind of in the midst of a compound curve. Anyway, something you can notice is there's all this stuff here. There's lots of tracks still there. Lots of kind of disused siding bits and pieces. And what's that all about? Well, we're going to find out in a minute. Why is the 6 foot so large? That's a very good question, actually, Simon. I'm not sure why the 6 foot's so large. Yeah, I don't know. Well, perhaps if we go to this map and I go to the really high quality one here, we can maybe have an understanding of why that might be. It's because it was 3-track railway. There's your answer. It was a 3-track railway corridor originally. And it's so before the station. So as you can see, there's no station here at this point. It kind of looks a bit like the station building. I mean, it looks a bit like what the station building footprint does. So yeah, it looks like the station building has already been constructed at that point, but it isn't the station yet. So yeah, that's an interesting. I'm not quite sure when the station building shifted. I mean, I could Google it and find out, but so could you. Someone Google it and tell me. Is this my origin story, Richard Smith, to fight track-based injustice? Possibly. Anyway, as ever, this mapping is fantastic, and if you haven't looked at it, it's brilliant. So the National Library of Scotland, all of the UK is on here with some pretty spectacular detail. My favourite is probably the OS 25-inch mapping, which is just such high resolution that it's such large-scale mapping that you really can see lots of details. For example, these wagon turntables, brilliant as the footbridge. I wonder if they moved the footbridge, because it's the classic Great North of Scotland Railway footbridge style. I wonder if they moved it wholesale and put it in the new spot. In any case, people are Googling right now. So where are we? So here we are, Inverurie. So you can see now there's a distinct lack of... what's all this? Well, there's a distinct lack of railway works here. I'll tell you what, first of all, this is going to be chaos by the way. We're going to be dashing around like there's no tomorrow. Let's start with a picture of the local works. So this is a picture of them pretty much brand new. I think they were opened in 1902. You can see some plate layers there, some nice P-way people. If that's what I think, this is a beard, I think, and that is a spectacular beard, absolutely brilliant. Obviously, here you can see they're using pickaxes in a kind of almost a parody of what P-way people do. We never pickaxe anything these days, but anyway, they're just pickaxe in the ground for no good reason. As you can see, the works look pretty modern from here. You know, they're very recently pointed. 1902, they look almost sort of like hydroelectric scheme art deco almost. It's quite something. It's quite nice. In any case, yeah, the works, they did all sorts of bits and pieces. This was they didn't actually make many locos at the local works. I think they only made about, was it like 10 or 12 locomotives were actually built at the local works. For the vast majority of time, they were doing lots of upgrades, renewals, painting, that sort of stuff. Yeah, so there's a picture of a very nice looking steam locomotive, Gordon Highlander. It's got, I presume that looks like Great North of Scotland Railway livery there. So that's very grand, very pleasant, very nice. There's some more pictures. So here they are. There's the boiler shop. They're clearly refurbishing boilers. So they did a lot of refurbishment works. I think for a while, in fact, I still think I do. I've got some A3 scans of some of the drawings that they had there, which I've got from when I was doing a school project. Goodness knows where they are now. Anyway, these folks all look pretty cheerful. Yeah, and there's some slightly more contemporary photos. Actually, there's only about 10 years between these two, but there you can see lots of more familiar looking rolling stock getting a bit of a repaint. There's the paint shop, pits for servicing diesel rail cars. It's a pretty substantial bit of works. This is the 60s, though, or the late 60s, and this was the kind of the dumping yard, and you can just see there's a load of dumped, knackered steam locomotives, which is a rather depressing sight. In any case, what happened? Well, let's zoom out. So we can see, actually, it's quite interesting, so you can see the scale of the works expansion. So here's the works in, what is this? 1899. So actually, it looks like the works are under construction at this point. It's actually the 25-inch is similar. Again, it's just before the works. So actually, I think the station must have moved with the works, so that the station was next to the works. That would make sense. So if we skip forwards to, there we are. There's a 1 to 25,000 from, what year is this? It doesn't say. Sometimes that happens. So you can see the works there, the station there. Very nice. Also, if we zoom out of Inverurie, you can see the scale of. Let's just have a look at what Inverurie looks like. So this is pre-all. And yeah, it grew a bit. That growth all pretty much happened at the same very short space of time. It was the fastest growing town in Europe for a while, thanks to the all in the North Sea, and becoming a dormitory town for that there Aberdeen. This bit all appeared when I left, actually. In fact, they'd started building this when I was there, but by the time I left in the 2005, 2006, this bit particularly is completely new. I think it's even expanded further, so it is growing tendrils as a town. In any case, that's not hugely interesting. What you want to see is what's going on here. So by the time we get to, let's skip forwards to, when is this? This is 1968. So it's kind of towards the end of the functioning of the works. I think they start winding down pretty rapidly after that. And you can see that, well, as often happens with industrial areas, they've been replaced by a storage place for cars with a shop next to it. This is the Tesco's. I remember when it was built. And they've also done something far better with the works at the other end, which is that they've expanded them into kind of a residential flats. They're quite snazzy, actually. So that's nice that they have done something, at least something with some part of it. It's like my most walked route was walking from walking this walk from the school, from Inverurie Academy, up past the health centre to past the Royal Mail Centre, and then going to Tesco's to buy lunch, which would usually be like, I don't know, an empty sponge flan base and a tin of squirty cream, and then walking back. Classic. In any case, that's us. There we go. So the works have been somewhat subsumed. They're gone. But that was kind of one of the main things that was Inverurie's industry until it became a dormitory town for Aberdeen. Right, this is going to be fairly relaxed because I know there's no news this week because it's a slightly different format. Royal Mail Depot appears. Yeah, that's pretty common. Locked on the wiki, it was 1902. What year is the map? Yeah, that makes sense. So if it was 1902, thanks Kentish Railways, if it was 1902, that was when the works opened. So I presume they moved the station so that people could get off at the station and get into the works fairly easily. Not the workers, I'd imagine. I'm meaning the top brass. Less of a walk for them. So this is all this. Can't see me pointing at anything. That's because I can't draw any. That's probably because my pointer doesn't actually appear. That I can actually fix that. Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. I'm describing, and I think you can see what's on screen. So let us press on. The next thing. So we're kind of moving out of Inverurie towards. So let's begin our train journey. Let's do it. So you have to go over here. There's a little coffee shop. Generally, everyone just obviously skips through here to get onto the train. And we're gonna have a little skip along. So we're gonna basically look at what the railway journey looks like. For the most part, this is what it looks like, actually. If I get us over onto this little bridge, you can get an idea of what the railway looks like. It is, if you ignore the JCB transit getting chopped off there. Boo. Yeah, this is the railway, basically. It's just a single track line. The telegraph poles are still in place. It's got semaphore signalling for the most part. It's quite an old-looking railway. It's changed a lot south of Inverurie, actually. I'm not touching on it just now, but they've redoubled it, and I think the station's reopened in Kintor. There's a lot of work has gone on there, modernising the railway. But north of Inverurie, it looks like a pretty rural. It's almost like a branch line, despite connecting two major cities. So we come out of kind of skirt round Inverurie, work our way north. Actually, the first thing that you'll notice, or perhaps you don't, because it's disappeared so well. If we go over here, is the junction with the old Meldrum branch. You can see how much this has disappeared and been subsumed by agriculture. There we go. So almost totally disappeared. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I presume maybe this is new build is about to happen as well. Crikey, if it is. In any case, that junction is there. So we're continuing on our journey in the true style of Bradshaw's. We're going to continue on the main leg and not disappear off down a branch. So that's exactly what we're going to do. If I remember which. See, this is going to be complicated. I'm negotiating so many windows. In any case, this bit of the railway line, the first stretch of the railways on kind of up through the River Uri floodplain. And pretty rapidly you get up to Inveramsey Bridge, which used to be, if we drag our little pointer, this is what this crossing used to be like. It used to be small and got hit by things pretty regularly, and there's a bit of a proper kink in the road here. However, this now has been replaced by a big old fancy snazzy bridge, which hasn't been street viewed yet, that goes over the top. Well, this is pretty much what I don't know what I managed to do there, but we're up in. This is pretty much what all of this part of Scotland looks like. That's Benahee in the distance. That's Mither Tap, because the railway basically along this bit, and we'll talk a bit more about Inveramsey in a second. The railway along this bit, there's Inverurie. There's our familiar Land Ranger map. The railway is essentially, and in fact, everything is skirting round this sort of big plateau. Which is almost like a tendril from the Cairngorm Mountains, which is known as Benahee, with Mither Tap being the kind of the it's not the tallest bit, but it's the most obvious prominent part, which has an old Iron Age fort on the top, which is great, and it's kind of it is the landmark for the whole of this part of Scotland. Basically, like from Benahee, you see Benahee here from pretty much like this sort of a huge radius. You can see this hill, and it's a fantastic sort of little marker point for this part of the country. So for anyone who's familiar with that part of the country, you shall be Benihee is a familiar sort of beacon. In any case, you can see the railway weaving around. You'll notice something up here. This is dismantled railway. So if we look out the window, you can see the remains of... So let's go up to Inverurie Bridge. You'll see the remains of Inverurie Junction, which was the junction with the railway heading north towards Buchan, I believe, in that direction. So if I zoom right out, you can sort of see the railway weaving its way up northwards. Here it is, ending up at Turriff. Anyway, it would have been quite a nice railway to keep open because it's a part of the country that no one really spends much time in anymore, but it's actually really quite nice. There's all sorts going on in this part of the country. One of the things that is quite interesting is the amount of Pictish stuff that's everywhere, which is why I put this up. So the Maidenstone is something that I used to pass quite frequently as a cyclist. In fact, I've got pictures of me and a chum of mine on our bikes having parked up. But it's a pretty common lunch spot or snack spot, the little road here on its way to Chaplageary. And you've got there's an interesting story that I'll let you all investigate on Wikipedia, but the tale, or the mythical tale of how the Maidenstone was created is quite fascinating. But it's got all this fantastic Pictish and sort of and then inherited Celtic knotwork. It's absolutely fascinating. This ancient thing. It really ought to be protected in glass, actually, because it's getting knackered by acidic rain. You can just about... So there are some people pointing out that you can spot the shadows of former railway line. That's certainly true. So if we head down to... if we head back here, you can see... I mean, there are a couple of telltales. The first is the fact that the fields follow the railway line. Also, the bridge is still there. Actually, that's a good point. I wonder if you can see the bridge from... So if I whiz over here, I wonder how good the view of the old bridge... Oh, there we are. So it's quite a pleasing little view of the bridge there. So actually, again, from the railway, which is just here behind that fence, from the railway, you'll get this view down across of the former railway line heading northwards. So that's very nice. The old A96. Driven that one a few times. So... Right, let's continue our journey northwards. So we're weaving along. So by this point, you kind of move away from the floodplain, and you're still in kind of above the Uri, but things start getting a little hillier as you weave along. Things get a bit tighter. The valley, if we go to Google Earth, actually, you can see that if we whiz this way, things start getting a little bit hillier. So there we are. So you can see the railway starting to weave through the topography. So it's quite pleasant by this point. The view's out across. There are quite a few interesting things to view. There's some old landed gentry houses that you can look at and boo as you pass. There we are, the railway kind of weaving off into the distance. There's some various interesting looking shapes in the distance that we'll spot, but we'll get there soon. So, lots of discussions about safeguarding closed railway lines and how many of these lines I think should be reopened. Essentially... A lot of these railway lines are served well by, unless there are freight justifications for reopening the line, bus services are sufficient to serve the population in this area. But it's not a reason to not necessarily reinstate some lines. There are lines that need reinstating, but they're generally not these small ones. I'd say the line to Fraserburgh is a major contender, and Peterborough is a major contender for reopening. In any case, let us continue our journey. So, we're going to continue whizzing, and 10 miles up the line, 10.6 miles to be precise, 12 minutes later, so it's a pretty rapid little journey, we reach Insch. So we have a nice 53 mile an hour average speed there, which is pleasant. So Insch, this is Insch station. Again, it's on a blinking curve. Wow, every single station on a curve. Up here you can see, well, let me get my pointer. We're going to make it purple. Up here is, that's completely invisible. Where's my red? Let's go for red. Red is best. Up here is the nice signal box, actually, which is quite pleasant. Still there. Another stout, sort of very local feeling architecture in the station itself, and some kit, because I presume they're doing some upgrades. You can see the platform here has been extended, and they've done a pretty decent looking nick of it, and totally resurfaced by the look of it as well. You can see the strip of dark here along where the drainage has been renewed in the platform surface. That's quite good. And again, you see this, which I presume, someone will have to correct me on it, I presume it's one of the original Great North of Scotland footbridges, because it's very similar vernacular to the others along the line. So I presume it's the same thing, but happy to be corrected on that. So if this platform's been corrected, to answer Matt Reed's question, if there's level boarding at the station, yes, if it's been corrected, it will be to the standard platform offsets. Whenever a platform is renewed or upgraded, it has to be set to the standard offset. So if you bought trains that fitted, which none of the current trains that run through here do, you would be able to provide level boarding. But of course, the 170s, the 158s do not provide level boarding. In any case, let us continue. So let's continue whizzing around through here. So let's go along. So if we whiz along here, you can sort of see the sort of vibe you get. Let's go down on the road. So it's quite pleasant. This is the aspect you get basically from the train. The view is pretty similar. It's quite kind of rolling. You've got some interesting features, but it's quite rolling. And that's pretty much, so the Gaddy Burn up here, it's pretty much the same sort of vibe. Here's Oin. Oh, while we're in Oin, does anyone know about Arculink? I don't even know if this place operates as Arculink. It's still got, why has it still got a thing saying Arculink on it? Because it definitely isn't Arculink anymore. What year is this? It doesn't say what year it is. 2008. Oh, maybe Arculink's still open. But so basically, there's a Teletubby mound in here, and they had a load of old Pictish forts and things, which was kind of Pictish sort of Celtic hut roundhouses and things, which are fantastic. And they had a Roman camp at the top as well. In fact, they had a Roman camp up here. It's great. Yeah, there it is. There's the Roman camp. But it's all been abandoned. You can see the car park's totally abandoned. Everything's just abandoned. It's a real shame. It's a fantastic little bit of capturing the local history. Fascinating local prehistory and history. But rip in peace, Arculink. Right. What's... So, here we go. Let's whiz along here. So we're whizzing along. You can see we've kind of left the River Uri behind, but it's still pretty verdant. Lots of large fields, pretty flat. If we go to Google Earth, we can see as we whiz along here, we've kind of come away from this valley where we were whizzing along next to the River Uri. We've come out into this open farmland. There's Oin. There we go. There's Oin. There's Arculink. And you can see again, skirting along the valley, but it's pretty flat. It's a pretty flat terrain here. Now the reason why I used to cycle, I've given it away, the reason I used to take the train along here quite a lot is because I used to cycle pretty frequently. I'd get the train and I'd go for really nice cycles around the area. So from Insch, there we are. These two pictures are the first pictures I ever took of a railway with a digital camera. This is native resolution, hence why this was small. Really rubbish. Sorry, Fergie, you're on there. But you can see this is actually the first ever picture of a train I ever took, and of course it was of a 158. There it is, beautiful. And in the background is an interesting feature that we'll come back to. But also you can see the signal box here. It's quite a nice looking signal box. I don't know anything about whose signal box it is and when it was built and the architecture, but it's a classic sort of nice wooden panelled thing. People are telling me off about my my drawing skills. Well, you know what? It's part of the fun. This is pre-renewal, by the way, as you can see. In fact, this photo was probably taken in the early... Well, it was taken in the very early 2000s, as you can tell by the style. They probably don't mind being in the photo. It's fine. It's only about 6 pixels to their face, so it's fine. But weirdly, this has also had some drainage renewals at the point where this photo was taken. So, and it's got to mind the step picture. So I dare say the platform was a bit of a mess at the time. So it's probably worth it. Good that it's been renewed. Oh, and also signaling in action. 6 pixels worth of semaphore signal there in action. Very nice. Anyway, so I used to do cycles all over the place, and the northeast of Scotland is brilliant for cycling. Lots of fantastic Scottish baronial castles. There are, see these Scottish baronial castles. My knackered old bike, which it's a Halford's Apollo, I think. There's like, if you're a kid from the early 2000s or the late 90s, you probably had an Apollo bike from Halford's. Let's face it, if you're in the UK. This is what was this hill called? Oh, this is what this is for. Where is it? There's a big long climb that picks up. Yeah, here it is. What is it? Suey Hill, that's it. Suey Hill, and it's got fantastic views out across. But basically, all of this, you can see lots of, if anyone's familiar with Land Rangers, which they should be because they're beautiful maps, particularly for cycling, there's just a network of fantastic cycles around here. So I used to get the train up to Insch and then cycle back when I was younger. That was like as adventurous I got. And as I started getting older, I started going further up the line and cycling back. And we'll get to the next station in a moment, which actually is precisely what we're going to do. After we've had a look at, so here again we've gone the other direction now. This feature here, this here is Dunadeer Hillfort. Let me go. Let's click on. There we are. Let's go here. So we're working our way up. Here's Insch. Yeah, see, it's on a curve. Insch, it's a reasonable little town. Not a huge amount going on, frankly, but you know, in typical style of the northeast, it's got a golf course that's about the same size as the town. And yeah, the railway starts weaving through here. It's quite pleasant though. So if we go, let's have a look. Firstly, let's go to the level crossing. There we are. There's the level crossing, and you can see there's the nice. Let's go here. There's a nice signal box. Very pleasant. There's a. Well, what might have been a former water tower, I suppose. There, it's nice. Anyway, very nice. There's the station curving away. Someone's nabbed a Mark II coach and put it in their garden. It's a bit strange. What would you want to do a thing like that for? Nice livery though. And in the distance here, you can see Dunadeer Hillfort, looking very pleasant. Actually, if I whiz along here to show you what the view is, because it's very it's very nice. There's a tree in the way. There's a tree in the way, folks. They've actually this section they've upgraded to be proper double, but basically it's a feature of this bit of railway. Actually, the view is even better, I think, from near the golf course. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, let's go here. There we go. So you can see by this point, we're kind of breaking into this sort of narrow patch. There's a semaphore signal looking very pleasant. There we are. So you can see the semaphore signalling. Nice. A sign advertising the golf course, probably in like 1970s Britain italics. Yep, standard. And the eye's fallen off as well. Very good. Unless that's a putting. Oh no, there'll be a ball on top of that, and it's probably like a golf reference. I don't know anything about golf. But you can see this Dunadeer Hillfort. It's fantastic. It's another one of these fantastic hill forts, except that this one has a pretty substantial structure on top because they built a castle on top of it. There's a lovely evening view. Thanks Wikimedia Commons. But yeah, it's fantastic. So you can go up this hill and you can walk actually up to the top of here from the station. So there's plenty to do. It's actually a really nice corner of the country. So not only are the views from the train gorgeous, but actually there's quite a bit of bits and pieces you can do. And so that's why I was taking a picture of Dunadeer Hillfort. And this is one of my first proper. This is just a scene with a railway in it. Greiser photos taken again with my NAF digital camera. But yeah, there we go. Early train spotting. Except for me, the train isn't quite as important as the good stuff here. Whoa, look at that. Anyway, right. We're going to continue our little adventure. By going northwards and seeing what there is. So things start getting a bit more rural as you head north. So we've gone past sort of the verdant fields, and you see there's a bit more of this sort of scrubby stuff appearing. We also come past one of our first distilleries, Ardmore Distillery here. If anyone's a fan of Ardmore, it's not a bad little whiskey. We're reaching Kennethmont Village, which is not a bad place to pick up a sandwich from the post. You know, one of those classic like rural Scottish villages where you go to a little post office and they sell little packet tuna sandwiches or ham and cheese or like cheese and coleslaw sandwiches, a little white roll loosely spread and it's in just a plastic bag with a sticker on it saying homemade in the Kennethmont post office, which is nice. But one of the other fun things there is around here is Leith Hall. Now the Leith Hall has really good gardens that's good fun when you're a kid. I used to love them. There's like a little waterfall that you can there's a bridge and a waterfall, and as a diminutive child, it's quite satisfying to run around there and pretend you're some sort of troll. So good for the kids, given that everyone on here is now like probably parent age, not child age. But now you see things are starting to look a bit more rugged and rural. We've got fewer big flat fields, and we've got more very attractive looking single track railway and pleasant bridges. This is a road I'd cycle along a lot on my way back to Inverurie from Huntly. But yeah, you can start getting a feel for the place. The topography, things are starting to get a bit taller. It's all very nice. Actually, incidentally, this over here is probably Suey Hill, actually. So that photo I took earlier is probably from over there. Yeah, anyway, very nice. So, actually, do you think there's Clat? This is Suey Hill here. I wonder if I can get the view up. Can I do it, do you reckon? Oh, that's not bad, is it? There we are. That's the same as my photograph I took. That's Tapper North there, which is one of the big hills in the area. And you can probably see the Hillfort, although I can't. Oh, it's probably just around the corner, actually. I can't quite see. Anyway, so you can see things get a bit bumpier as you go further north towards the Moray coast. Anyway, very nice. There we go. This is Towie. Don't worry about that. Also, Clat. The village names are fantastic in the northeast of Scotland. They're completely bonkers. So, we're continuing. And as you can see, everything's become more cyan. That's fine. Don't worry about that. But the railway is weaving along quite pleasingly, I think, at this point. Are they gonna, do they colour correct in the Google? I think they do, you know. So there's Insch, lovely. Oh no, they don't. It's exactly the same stuff. Oh, boo! Everything's got that much more cyan. Anyway, very nice. So you weave along, things get a bit more rugged. I think there's a bridge. There's a nice viaduct along here. Let me try and remember where it is. Ah, yeah, there it is. Everyone loves a bit of a viaduct, right? Yep, lovely. Yep, viaduct. Here we are. Was that it there? Was it Gartley Viaduct? I think that's... Oh no, that can't be a viaduct. That's underneath. Maybe it's here. Let's just sneak in here and have a look across. No, the railway is officially hidden behind a hill. Never mind. In any case, yeah, you can see the railway is kind of weaving up, and then we cross the bypass and into Huntly, which is very nice because 29 minutes since we left Inverurie, we arrive into Huntly, 23.9 miles away from Inverurie, and we still have a nice like 49 mile an hour average speed. It's not too bad. Village names are fantastic pretty much everywhere in Britain, to be honest, says Muser Zero. Yeah, that's a fair point. Matt Reed is asking if they're going to upgrade the signals in the next 10 years. I don't know if they... I mean, they're... In the next 10 years, I don't know. To be honest, I think there have been various minor signalling upgrades to bring the... to kind of improve some of the headways and get the kind of the hourly train throughput. But I'm not sure to what extent the signalling is going to get renewed. The semaphores are nice. It might be one of the... I mean, I don't know. There are still quite a few lines that rely on semaphore signalling, so I don't think they're going to be disappearing anytime soon. But if there are any signalling people on the chat... I can think of a couple who are in the Discord who might have an answer on that. There's some good British village names chat going on. Excellent, that's good stuff. Anyway, so Huntly. What is in Huntly? Well, let's have a look at the station first. Oh, look, it's another one on a curve. But again, you see this lovely, lovely station footbridge there. You know, so that's nice. I like seeing those. I don't know what the gauge clearance is on them, but. Actually, this does have gauge clearance to W9, I think, because there is clearance up to Elgin to allow decent freight to run, I believe, from Aberdeen. Also some nice reballasting going on here. Platforms don't look like they're in too bad nick, but that is about that, I think, for Huntly. There's not much... Oh, I mean, in terms of the town, no, there's loads to talk about the town. So, let's get the full map up. So, getting the train to Huntly, fantastic selections of cycles include whizzing down on the A97... which is actually quite pleasant and quiet for this bit. It's very, very pleasing bit of road. Down onto the B9002 and whizzing along into Insch. Then from Insch, you've got a choice really. You can either head southwards and go around the back of Benahee and then cut in around the River Don and then come back into Inverurie that way, or you can, if you want to basically follow the railway, you can follow the B road, the B9002, until it briefly meets... you hit the A96 for a little bit, which is pretty horrible and busy, but you're off it again in 5 seconds, and you whiz up a little hill, and you go past the Maidenstone, which, to be fair, which I talked about earlier, which I just realised I can probably do this for the Maidenstone. Let's whiz down to this Pickpool and lovely, the Maidenstone. Marvellous. We're going to the Maidenstone. We can have a look at the Maidenstone. Here it is. There we are. That's there it is. There's the Maidenstone. So if you're expecting anything more grand, then sorry to disappoint you, but that's a bit weird. What's this on top of, and why has someone set the camera on top of a fence post? It's a bit weird. In any case, oh, that's really weird. Why have they done that? Well, there it is. Anyway, there's the Maidenstone in very rationed pixel form. That's better. There it is. That's nice. There's sort of the little road you go up, and there's actually Persephone is in the forest here as well. There's a huge stone goddess in the forest as well, which you can look at, which is quite nice. Persephone in the forest, which is it's just down here. In any case, there we go. So we're going to whiz back up to Huntly again. There we go. Let's go back to Huntly. So there are some things in Huntly. Huntly is kind of a bit of a sort of standard Scottish market town, but it's got this grid pattern, which is quite nice. So let's go and have a look at Huntly and how Huntly grew up. Let's whiz this way. Let's go up to... let's just get the map up. There's in Insch. I don't think Insch has grown much. I mean, there are probably a few, don't you? But if let's do a bit of this. Yeah, you can see some new housing estate, but it's not grown a huge amount since then. It's just basically 3 major housing estates. We're going to keep going along. Work our way up to arrive in... Yeah, we're talking about shadows in there. I wonder what interesting things were going on there for those shadows. In any case, here we arrive in Huntly, which, if we whiz along here, you see not a huge amount of change. It's got this grid pattern. If we whiz back to the olden days, even then, not a huge amount of expansion, although obviously the bypass whizzes through. But yeah, there's so it's a sort of a in fact, here's quite interesting. So you can see the old shape of the town that's then been subsumed by grid pattern. In any case, Huntly's quite pleasant to walk around. It's quite a nice little spot to visit. I would recommend it. Look at this. There's agricultural implement works. Well, there you go. But more importantly, you come up here to Castle Park, and ignoring the big fash school, but basically you arrive at this place here, Huntly Castle. Now, Huntly Castle is brilliant. Here's a nice old engraving from yon olden days. What's that? 1804. That's pretty old. I think that was about the time when they realised that demolishing it and using the stone elsewhere was a bad plan. Fence posts are cheaper than tripods, says Chris McKenna. Yeah, very good point. But the castle is brilliant. As a kid, it's so good because it's intact enough that you can go around inside it on various levels, as in fairness are a lot of the castles around this part of Scotland. There's a thing called the Castle Trail which you can follow. There are loads of castles. Tahoon Castle's another fantastic one, spelt Tolquahone. And there's lots of floors. You can imagine it's an old Scottish baronial castle, but quite large. Similar with Huntly. Large castle, Scottish baronial style, but large, with a big footprint. Lots of levels you can go and hide in. Underground bits you can go and hide in. Lots of running around. And just brilliant as a kid. Absolutely used to adored going there as a kid. So much fun. It's an interesting spot to go and visit if you're just a castle nerd. So, as I've said about the Northeast, you've got lots of Pictish stone circles. You've got lots of other bits of Pictish stuff. You've got lots of castles. You've got all the Scottish the barons, you know, the Gordons and the Duffs and all these rich pricks. But sort of these stout Scottish baronial sort of masters in the area, which meant there were lots of castles. And also, of course, as we'll get to it, it's whiskey territory as well. So lots of good stuff going on in and around Huntly. So let's go back to the map. Or should we go back to Google Maps? So here we are. So Huntly. Let's go into the middle of Huntly. Where is the best spot to go? Let's drop in and sort of see what Huntly looks like. This is a sort of standard northeast Scottish market town looks like. Granite, lots of granite, and then some more granite, and then granite. But you can see it's quite it's a grand looking setup there. The big tower. Yeah, this looks so familiar. This is just what I grew up in. There's the town square. It's all very pleasant. You know, it's quite a nice spot. It's very grey, but that's because of the granite. But there you are, Gordon Arms. It's quite a grand looking spot, isn't it? You know, quite pleasant. Interesting to visit. I'm doing Visit Scotland a favour here. No one's paying me for this, by the way. Not whiskey companies, not Visit Scotland. But maybe they'll sponsor me for these episodes in 6 years when we're on Rail Natter episode 7,000. In any case, let's not worry about the A96. We're going to join our railway, which whizzes. It does a kind of a funny loop. Here it is. It whizzes around the top and it follows the river. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. It follows. No, let me get my Google Earth back. There we go. Because it's useful to look at the topography to understand what's going on. So, whilst the road whizzes off up towards the Glens of Foundland, which is kind of quite a big bit of a hill, a bit of a pass, the railway does something else, which is whiz off in this direction. Should we have a look at what stuff there was at the railway station, by the way? Should we just see how big and substantial the railway was? There's an auction mart. The station's there. Bit of a kink for the mapping there. I'm not convinced by that. But you can see that the auction mart was there, but that's pretty much it. There's not much else. So it was never really a particularly massive... there's a woolen mill. It's quite interesting. Sort of water-fed woolen mill. There's a weir feeding the woolen mill. Oh, that's interesting. In any case, not a huge amount of railway stuff going on in Huntly, unlike Inverurie, which was pretty massive. So, the railway continues, the Great North of Scotland Railway continues its journey kind of northwards, following the Devon, as I said. And you can see that if we whiz over to a bit of road, let's keep going on here. Let's find a bit of road here. We're going to cross the railway to get a feel for what it all looks like. Everything's looking quite a bit more rugged. It's all feeling a bit more rural at this point. You can see the railway is sort of battling across some tougher terrain. This is the kind of weather I'm used to. Look at that, just everything's a bit wet. So let us continue our little... We're following the railway. So it's whizzing along, following the Devon. So now we've escaped from the Devon. We're following the Moray. Now, there we are. Following the River Devon. There we are. Nice. Very nice. Over the river. Now can we get that viaduct? That's quite pleasant. Should we do that? Let's see if we can get a view of the viaduct in. Let's do this. Oh, there we go. It's a stout truss structure there. That's not bad, is it? That's quite good. Always like a nice stout-looking bit of viaduct there. Nice. Anyway, we're continuing along on our journey along the railway. Pretty flat, some nice long straights here actually, so it's pretty not bad line speed. And then all of a sudden we're sort of climbing. We're sort of hitting hills inescapably, and things get a bit more rugged again. Climbing. Here we go. So we've skipped the climb, but if you go, so if I zoom out, you can see there's all this lumpy stuff, and this is what the main road climbs through. So the main road actually whizzes around the top here, there it is, and whizzes around here through the Glens of Fanlin and drops down into this little spot here. Now, why has it got two little stations, you might wonder? That's right, we're on our way to Keith. Keith, which is 36.3 miles from Inverurie, 43 minutes have elapsed. That's not bad. We've been recording for 46 minutes, so I consider that to be a success. We're not badly off the time. So 43 minutes have elapsed, and we're still averaging 50 miles an hour. So okay, it's not a high speed line, but averaging 50 miles an hour is not too bad actually. It's kind of indicative of the quality that the Great North of Scotland Railway built the railway to, in that it's weavy here and there, but it's pretty decent. You know, it's not too bad. Anyway, this town is called Keith, which only became more hilarious to me when I realised that the town was called Keith today, when I was reminding myself. I mean, I know of Keith, but Keith has always been a town in my head. For some reason, I've disassociated myself from that fact. Went back and looked at Keith on real-time trains when I was double-checking the timings, and it was like, this town's called Keith, as in Keith. You know, the name Keith, which made me laugh unendingly. Hello to Keith, the admin person on the Discord, by the way. You do solid work. In any case, as we're whizzing along here, yeah, we arrive in yet another big Scottish sort of market town. This one, however, made a lot of cash from a certain type of nectar created from the grain, shall we say. I'll give you a hint by dragging this little man here over here, there, and wibbling around and going, oh, no, what could all this stuff be along here? What could it be? Well, I'll tell you what it is. Chivas Brothers. Now, who owns Chivas? Well, Chivas are owned by Diageo now, aren't they? Chivas Regal. But basically, this is a place storing a dump ton of whiskey. There you are. See, lots of whiskey. Much of the whiskies, all being stored in tremendous, casks and casks of the stuff. And actually, if you whiz along, so you'll notice there's a junction here. So let's get the old Geo Explorer up and whiz over to Keith. Keith, we're on our way. Keith, pretty substantial, even at this time, which is 1905. You can see 1905, major work, major bit of railway works. You've got mills, you've got all sorts of stuff. But actually, what hadn't appeared by this point is the distillery, whereas I think if I whiz down to... You can see new stuff has started appearing. I dare say whiskey-based things will have started appearing. In any case, you'll see that there's another railway that goes down here. This is now known as the Keith and Dufton Railway. And it's a fantastic little heritage line. Towie Moor. So if you wanted Towie Moor is the spin-off show. But you can see here, there's this word here, distillery. That's because Keith is basically like the gateway to Speyside distillery country, particularly Dufton, which is arguably the capital of kind of whiskey country. Here it is, Dufton, looking tremendously brilliant. This is a fantastic... The line from Dufton to Craigellachie, now disused, makes a really nice cycle path, by the way, but it does often get eaten up by landslides. And then you find yourself down in Craigellachie here, which has got a fantastic railway viaduct, and then the Craigellachie Bridge. And then down in Aberlour, where the whiskey action. Here's some whiskey action here. Oh, This whole area, whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. My favourite Speyside is probably still Dalwhinnie, but Glenmorangie. Dalwhinnie is a Highland, not a Speyside. Sorry, I had a mind fart there. Yeah, I think Glenmorangie is probably my fave. But that's Fockerburst. We don't go up there. Getting ahead of ourselves. Is Keith. So, but also the railway junction going up in the other direction as well. There's a pretty major spot, Keith. What else have I got to say about Keith? Well, here's the station. You can see now it's somewhat diminutive, and it's a single track railway with a single facing platform and a bus shelter, somewhat degraded from its former glory. There's not even a station with the Heritage Line, which I think is a real shame. I hope that they're going to change that, because it'd be really nice for there to be platforms so that you can have a direct exchange. But the Keith and Dufton Keith itself is famous, surely, for one thing more than any other. Simon's F. Kendler's got some Achna Shellach on the go, which is very nice. Do they send whiskey by rail? I don't know if Chivas Regal if Diageo sends stuff by rail. I know a man who could answer that, but I don't know. The Google should have the answer. No, the reason why Keith and Dufton Railway is famous is because, of course, they have the original Pacer, the Class 140, the one and only 140,001, located. Keith is a lemon. That is fair point. Eurostar Lover 009. Yes. Here is it's so dismal. Everything about it is dismal, to the point where you can see that they've painted the yellow on the side of the bus to make it look a bit more like the PEP units that the diesel PEPs should have been created instead of this junk. But they've tried to make it look a bit fatter and a bit less absolutely horrific. But this thing is just straight-sided, dismal. There's a video, if you search Pacer prototype on YouTube, you'll get a video of this thing being tested in Glasgow. And it was so dismal, by the opinion of the passengers riding it and the people who operated it, the driver, I'd imagine as well, that this is the only Pacer that's ever run in Scotland ever, as far as I can tell. Not a single, despite being built in Glasgow. Some of the later Pacers were built in Glasgow. I think that's the only time they spent in Scotland was getting out of Scotland. So because basically they don't work for rural railway lines. So somewhat debunking the idea they saved rural railway lines when they literally don't work on rural lines. They only were ever used on kind of semi-rural and suburban lines. In any case, that's another story. So the Pacer's there for you to go and see and laugh at. Graham Howarth was on the Dufton branch on a rail tour. That's very nice. Yeah, there is a rail connection, which is good. It's always good when a heritage line has a rail connection, because it means they can stable things, they can get stock to arrive more cheaply-ish, although actually often by road is cheaper, unfortunately, these days. But also it means they can do things like testing. They can offer up the line for the mainline railway companies to do testing of kit and stuff like that. So there's always an advantage of having a mainline rail connection. Anyway, that was Keith. Oh, my voice is going. I'm going to have a big old sip of tea. How's everyone doing? Are you all enjoying your journey through the northeast of Scotland? I have no idea to what extent this format holds up. Thomas Wood says the rail connection's severed at the Keith end. Well, they could... Is it for signalling purposes? I'm sure they could reinstate... That's the sort of thing where at least there's not a huge building site in the way. They can reinstate it. There we are. Even the Iranian government hated the Pacers, points out Sarah Noble. Yep, very true. Ella the developer says, thanks for sending your trash down south. It wasn't our trash. They sent it up here to try it out. Blame Leyland Bus Company. It's their fault. Actually blame all of the governments at the time for all the reasons. Yeah, buffer stop and track lifted for all of 10 metres, I presume for signalling purposes, because it's easier for signalling. That's still annoying, though, because the cost there will be the signalling cost to reinstate it. Right, so let's go to Google Earth. So we're in Keith. Here you can see the railway going off in various directions here. So there's the railway whizzing off up here. There's the railway line doing its thing. That's the former one you can see. There's the existing railway line in black. We've escaped from the Cyan, everyone. We've escaped the Cyan. So in this direction you can see, if we go down here, you can see over here should be... Where is it? Oh, you can't quite see it, actually. Tapper North should be visible, but it's the Google is not... Google Earth's terrain model isn't quite good enough to make the point. In any case, let's continue our journey. As as I've been saying, things do get a bit more rural, a bit more scrubby, and by the time you're getting kind of we're making some decent progress. Let's have a look. So we've got a nice bridge here. Let's get the old maps up. There we are, and whiz along the railway line. That looks distinctly. There we are. Good. Whiz along the railway line. Another distillery. There are many distilleries. Quite a few of the distilleries don't actually make a single malt. They just basically create grain whiskey, which gets shipped down to Leven. There's one. Boat of Brig. This is where we want to look at the railway. So there we are. This not only is this a fantastic road bridge, the railway. So they're fixing the railway bridge in this picture. That's nice, isn't it? It's interesting. So there's another pretty substantial. Is that a Warren Truss? Oh, I can never remember my truss bridges. In any case, it's a nice truss structure again, spanning the river. Very nice. That's the Spey, by the way, of course. The railway whizzing along. So if we've crossed the Spey, which really does distinguish sort of the movement from. Very much we've moved from the Shire, from Aberdeenshire, up into Moray, which is the territory of the. Well, this is the Moray Firth here. This big old bit, the kind of the open crocodile mouth at the top of Scotland is the Moray Firth. And that's kind of gives name to this county. There we are. There's Boat of Brig, and we're going to continue round, whizzing along here. So yeah, you can see it kind of whizzing along. The railway still manages to have somewhat of a sort of a verdant vibe, but if we whiz onto the road here, we've got these lovely flanking hills. It all just feels a bit less like you're on the east coast and a bit more like you're in northern Scotland. There's a definite shift when you're on the railway looking out the window. There's a definite shift from like the east coast, which is pretty flat and rolling but pretty agricultural, because this whole part of Scotland has fantastic weather. Inverurie has really high sunshine amounts considering how far north it is. And it's because the cairngorms, basically the fern effect means that or the rain shadow effect means all the rain falls on the cairngorms from the fact that the wet air goes up the top, it rises up, the pressure means that it drops water, and then the clouds disappear before they reach Inverurie. It's actually really good for agriculture. So you'll see lots and lots of arable and a fair few dairy farms as well, but mostly arable actually in the northeast, which is one of the reasons why there's lots of grain for making whiskey. So, we're continuing our journey northwards. Shall we see another... Let's see if we can spot another little... Can we have a view down to the railway? It's behind that forest, really, isn't it? This is a tremendously long... This isn't a Roman road, because we beat up the Romans once they got this far north. But I wonder if I've got a nice view down to the railway from up here. It'd be nice if... Yeah, so you can see it's a big flat valley. The railway sort of cruising through the middle. Yeah, very nice. I mean, if you want to, if you like roads, the roads around here are good fun for driving, which is why so many teenagers get killed doing it. Yeah, so the railway continues north, very pleasant. In any case, we very rapidly reach Elgin. So only, how many minutes is that? That's so only 20 minutes later. So there's 20 minutes of nice kind of getting the train along here. Very nice. There's our long straight road. You can see, there we are. Oh, I keep wanting to say Llan Bride, but of course it isn't Llan Bride because we're in Scotland, not Wales. But Llan Bride is here. It's a similar Brythonic route, by the way. So it's the same logic. So this is where there obviously used to be a railway station here. In fact, there are quite a few railway stations that we've whizzed through that don't exist anymore. Kennethmont was one of the ones next to Leith Hall, for example. Let's get the map up. So here we are in Keith. Is there anything interesting that we can put? Well, other than the junction of the railway whizzing up in that direction, we're going to continue. Let's whiz along our railway here. The old mapping. God, it's fantastic. There's Orton Station's another little one, little post office station. There we are. There's our long straight road that we were talking about a minute ago. What on earth name is that? Orbliston. Wow. Quite something. Another railway junction. I told you this place was busy with railways. This is a little... of course, this is the... So even here, you can see the railway at this point is a terminus. But it was extended later, but it's quite interesting seeing the map here, where you can see it's at the Mastodloch and Fochebers. Fochebers is still a terminus. Let's see. Now, compare that to... Oh, actually, that's the wrong way around. So actually, it's not because they haven't built it out yet. It's because they've demolished it. So if I go to the 6-inch... Oh, no, interesting. So what era is this? This is... Now, you see the railway comes up... That's not the railway, it's just a river. I was positive, maybe erroneously so, that the railway continued. But maybe it never did. Maybe that's a figment of my imagination. Let's see. Yeah, I was convinced. No, the map disappears off the end there. You know, see this, and by this point, the entire railway is disused. I was under the impression that the road used the former railway bridge, but maybe I've got that wrong. Everyone will have to do their research now. Right, stuff it. I'm googling it. Everyone, Google Fochabers. David Shepherd asks, have they closed stations on the main line that are in towns and villages? Yeah, very much so. It's a very common thing to happen. Was for is everyone still there? I've got a strange. Google's telling me that everyone's disappeared off, which can't be right. There's a weird drop off in. There's a stream being going strange. Let me know. I'm refreshing to see what happens. Stream as ever is being highly reliable. Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, let's find out. Fochabers station. Let's go. There we are. So now, tell me, everyone. It's only Aberdeen and yeah. See, it was situated as a terms of a branch line. Station closed. Okay, interesting. So I know nothing about this. We're gonna have to let's get Rail Map Online up because that's the way that we. Oh golly, Rail Map Online is down. Oh, that must be why I didn't research it earlier. Anyway, there we go. Good. YouTube's been a bit weird. Well, I tell you what, we're gonna have to talk about Fochabers at some point in the future because I've learned things. I was convinced that the bridge that's there now was a former railway bridge, but that must be a figment of my imagination. How interesting. Yeah. If we go to let's go to the 25-inch. Let's go to this one actually. Yeah. Nope. Just a figment of my imagination. Well, there we go. It shows what you know. I think it's because there's a new road bridge was. Yeah. To be fair, looking at that, that's not a railway bridge. It's got a road bridge in the corner. Just because they built a new road bridge next to it as part of the bypass going through. Well, anyway, there we go. Also, which this is the bypass of the bypass, isn't it? Oh, they built that since I was. See, what a pointless bit of construction that is. What a waste of everyone's time. Anyway. There we go, and there. Oh, they built this bypass after I'd moved out of the area. This to me seems like one of the most pointless wastes of tarmac ever. Anyway, every mile of tarmac built is a mile of tarmac wasted these days. In any case, let us return to history view because we're going to continue up the line. See if there's anything else interesting. So notable that this is now being called the Highland Railway, no longer the Great North of Scotland Railway. Worth noting. Why might that be? Well, so if I whiz along here, you see that if we're going back to Keith and Bucky Branch, Highland Railway, the Great North of Scotland Railway, which terminates in Keith. Oh, there we go. Some railway history for you that I'm not going to expand on. Excellent stuff. So we're continuing along our journey, the Highland Railway, and we've reached. Well, actually, we've just whizzed through Landbride. There it is. There's Landbride. Where the site of the last derailment we had that was fatal thanks to star cracking of a fish plate bolt hole. We'll talk about that on another episode, I'm sure. But yes, so I think one of the episode suggestions is how are we doing? An hour and 3 minutes. Well, this is officially when we'd be pulling it to Elgin, so we're not doing too badly, I think. The Discord Patreon suggestions of episodes include one about crashes that are significant for the railway. I'm definitely going to do one on crashes that are significant for track because I think it's relevant and interesting to pick out those. In any case, we have arrived at Elgin, 54.4 miles from Inverurie, which doesn't seem that far. 90 kilometres just about. 63 minutes of elapsed, just over an hour. We've been averaging about 51 miles an hour on the way up the railway, which isn't too bad. So we've not really dropped much speed throughout. Yes, Elgin Station is pretty diminutive, frankly. You can see it doesn't have one of the traditional station bridges. It's only got one of these DDA compliant things, which is good. It's nice to have lifts and let people actually use the railway. So I'm all for that. Goodness knows where the old bridge ended up. And you can see it's been replaced by a rather mediocre looking station structure, which if we whiz along to, so this is Landbride. We're going to continue along the railway. and arrive ourselves into Elgin, into the former city. There's Elgin, looking pretty large. The former city of Elgin. Now let's whiz into Elgin. Let's have a look. There's the station building. Look at that. What a disappointment it is. Just dismal. But you know, it's fine. It does the job, and at least it is a station building rather than a bus shelter. It probably has heating, which is nice. Yeah, there's the you see there's the nice classic sort of modern ScotRail access for all bridge, which I'm all for. Yeah, very nice. So that's Elgin Station. But what about Elgin itself? What is there in Elgin? Well, in Elgin is Scribbles. Scribbles is in Elgin, everyone. Scribbles is in Elgin. Does anyone in the chat know what Scribbles is? We're not going up to Fockerbur's Town, Barry, because we're only travelling on a journey that people could make. Maybe we'll do historic ones in the future, but for now we're just doing journeys that people can make themselves. Scribbles. Station has solar panels, does it? Oh, that's quite good if it does. Remember, did it? I suppose it looks like it does. Yeah. Not from the. Oh, is it in here? Oh yeah, it does. That's good, isn't it? Solar panels on stations. I'm all for it. I was speaking to someone for a Radio 4 thing about solar panels on railway infrastructure the other day. Actually, I don't know when that'll appear. In any case, Scribbles. Roaming Adocrat had several excellent meals there while campaigning. Fantastic. Scribbles is less professional crane easting. Well, indeed. Scribbles is brilliant. It is if we go back to the Google Maps, Scribbles restaurant is in the centre of. Here we are. Let's go over to the centre of. Actually, where it's not appearing. It's not appearing. Pretty sure that Scribbles is. It's been a while since I've got. Well, you know what? Let's. This is what. Scribbles is on the high street. Ah, it's up here. There we go. Marvellous. This is Scribbles. Scribbles is... I've kind of lost it again there. As I can see it, everyone. Let's go and look at Scribbles. This is the high street. And there is Scribbles. It's a fantastic pizza restaurant. And they give you crayons and you can draw on a bit of paper. Which, when I was a kid, was amazing. I think Pizza Express and everyone does it now. But at the time, it was brilliant. Sarah Noble, all she knows about Elgin is that they've been in League 2 for 20 years. Are they doing better or worse than the Inverurie Locos? That's what I want to know. So yeah, Elgin, actually it's a pretty grand town. Lots of grand structures paid for entirely by the proceeds of slavery. So for example, I think this here is one of the original hospitals that you can see that I'm flinging myself towards at high speed here. Pretty grand. That's a bit much, wasn't it? There we are. Let's go over here so we can see it a bit better. Pretty grand structure, and there are lots of grand structures in Elgin. It's a really interesting place to visit. It's a very beautiful former city, actually. Very interesting little spot. Let's go into here to look at the old map. So you can see Elgin. It's already pretty substantial. Obviously, it's grown quite a bit over time, particularly in the south. Major new houses appearing, much to serve Inverness, but also the main economy was Lossiemouth and Kinloss, actually, the two RAF stations, one of which is closed. It was not the best. But you can see it, pretty substantial bit of railway stuff here. I can tell you exactly what that is. That's a thing to hold salt for the council. Anyway, lots of railway infrastructure. If we can whiz back to the... In fact, this is what we want. If we go to here, so you can see if we go to the 25-inch, lots and lots of railway works, connections to the Great North of Scotland Railway whizzing down, doing other things there. The connection the connection up towards Spey Bay, I think, as well. Lots of various bits of railway stuff going on. Quite busy. Lots of good sheds, and actually, it's still used as if I whiz this over here, actually, it is used as a freight exchange. I believe there's still got some freight applications. So it is a used bit of rail infrastructure. In fact, there's rail freight makes use of Elgin, I believe, to this day. So my voice is going. So in any case, yeah, Elgin. So we've reached Elgin. What else is there to do in Elgin other than Scribbles? Well, you can go and have a look at the old cathedral, which is quite pleasing. so this, so this is quite a substantial. It's a huge cathedral. Wandering around, it's really interesting, and the whole Elgin's really pleasant. And again, if we get the old the OS map up, let's head up to Elgin. Cycling in and around Elgin is fantastic. There are lots of old cycle, the old railways that you can use for cycling. There's Lossiemouth. There it is. See, there is. See, I never got the Berghead Spur. What actually uses it? In any case, that's not on our route today, so we'll worry about that in the future. But lots of bits and pieces to look at. Cycling wise, there's loads of good cycle routes. You can get across to the Spey from Elgin or Keith. Either way, Keith is quite good for connecting up to the Spey, but actually Elgin as well. Lots of really good cycling connections, either from going up to the coast and then following the railway cycle path from Garmouth and then across through Bucky and then following it most of the way around the coast, actually, certainly to Cullen. That's a fantastic cycle. We'll head up there at some point in the future, maybe. But generally, the cycling is just absolutely such a good part of the country for cycling. Really good. Lots of interesting terrain, lots of steep hills if you want them, but also lots of decent, flattish and interesting road cycling. But if you want to just crunch big miles, really good for that sort of stuff. So I can't recommend it enough. So a really good way to do the railways, to take your bike and do a bit of an explore, book your bicycle in and make your journey through. So that's the trip basically. So all in all, what's that? 51 mile an hour average. We've done just under 55 miles, just over an hour. Oh, it's the new format, folks. You asked for it. I enjoyed that actually. It was quite good. Was it? How was that? Did people broadly follow the chaos? Did it make any sense of what was happening? We've reached our destination. It was good. I enjoyed that. Where to next is the next one. We've got to work out who's going to be. Where are we going to go next? What's the next hour of scenic railway we're going to travel upon? Ideally, I'd do these having filmed out the window to show you sort of what the journey looks like. But I don't have any footage out of these windows because I haven't taken a train in the northeast of Scotland for a very, very long time. My voice is gone, but I really enjoyed that. We'll be back to normal next week when in fact, let's find out what's happening next week, shall we? Let's go back to this. Let's just whiz through here. So, thanks to the podcasting listeners. John Stone says it's not completely disastrous. We'll find out how this format holds up in audio-only format. But yeah, we're available at all the usual vendors. Patreon is where to support me to make more of this happen. Every little helps. You can give me as much as you like or as little as you like a month, and you get all the same benefits, which are lots of custom and sort of Patreon only stuff on the Discord and on Patreon itself, and also but if you don't fancy that, then you can go into PayPal and chuck money at me. I would recommend going to the Discord, GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord, where lots of things happen, lots of technical channels where technical people are discussing technical things, but also lots of less technical discussion, to be honest, which is good too. If you go into Patreon, that's where you get to suggest, and Discord, but certainly as a Patreon, you get to suggest where the next episodes are going to be. So if I'm going to do another one of these, which I probably will, there are so many bits of railway to explore, bits of rural railway to explore. I may well find myself on the Aberystwyth line. I could be on the West Highland line, could be on the Highland Main line. The rule is only that it's an hour long and that it's got interesting things to look at. I mean, scenic is like rabbit ears, because for me, any railway journey is a scenic one. There's always something interesting to look at out the window. And what is next week? Next week is, well, what exactly is sustainability? We have Simon. Simon is in the chat and he's joining us for the episode. Episode 36, what exactly is sustainability? Simon Zev Kendler is joining us and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I got the most hammed up looking sustainability stock photo I possibly could and dumped it in behind this one. But we're going to talk about sustainability because I use the word a lot, but people occasionally get confused about its meaning. They often, when it comes to sustainability, people think green and don't think much else. But there's more to sustainability than that, and we are going to cover it in some great detail, I'm sure. Chris McKenna points out that the Victoria line is not scenic. That's true to an extent, but I'd argue if you're not counting up the tiled enclave alcoves with benches in, then if you're not counting those, then you're missing out on the fun. You are missing out on the fun. Well, everyone, that has been a thing. Some of you, I don't know to what extent that was an enjoyable compared to the normal format. Who knows? But I quite enjoyed. that. It's nice to do something different. We've got oh my goodness me, so many. So if this is going to happen every week for the next foreseeable, then I've got to think of other ideas. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat on its face. And also, this one's potentially interesting because we could do them live in the train, maybe, or certainly I can do them with having gone on the train and filmed out the window and sort of show you things and point at things, and you can have bits where I'm talking, but not live, but in a video. In the format could explode into life. Who knows? In any case, that's been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining, everyone. An hour 16. Okay, we've kind of broken the idea of being about commensurate with the time it takes to hit the train. But in any case, that was fun. I will see you all. I'll see you all in a week, actually, for the next Rail Now with Simon. But in the meantime, have a pleasant time. Be good to one another, and I'll see you in the Discord for the after party. Until next time, video link, a map link in the video blurb would be nice. Just Google Inverurie and Elgin. There are a million maps in there. I can put a link to the NLS mapping if you don't know what the link. But again, if just search NLS maps, NLS Geo Explorer, NLS maps, it'll all appear. In any case, Goblin. Lots of people are saying Goblin. Maybe Goblin. All right, Green Steve. Maybe Goblin is what we'll do. In any case, it's been a pleasure, folks. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.